I'm trying a lot of new things, so I hope the audio is good because my S's are not sounding great. I put the fuzzy thing on my mic, but I don't know. It might not work. And yeah, so welcome. I'm going to show you some little tips that I've figured out with the half square triangles. As we know, they can be time consuming, and I've been going through several different versions of how to be more efficient with them. So I'll kind of show you what I did. Um, at first, I made medical tape. I drew it 1 inch medical tape, and I drew it with a friction pen. Okay. And then after a while, I was like, that I don't think I want to buy, because I wanted to see if I wanted to buy it or not. And I was like, I'm not going to do this. So then I decided I have lots of template material because I make stencils for my long arm machine. And so I made just a, a little stencil, and it has like a bee at the bottom showing me the bottom when I tape it on my machine. And I'll show you that. Now you'll notice I have lines drawn here. Well, that was my third version. And this is kind of what I'm sticking with, this and then this tiny little stencil here. But the 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 first stencil that I made was this one, and I was able to, put it all the way up on the bobbin case and line it up with my 1/4 inch marks, my center mark. This is my center, and if I zoom in a little, this is my center, and this little notch is my 1/4 inch. So it's, not real big. And I don't use the left side of this tape yet, and I think you're supposed to, because I don't think you're supposed to twirl around the half square triangle. I think you're supposed to just do the left side, but I have a 1/4 inch foot on. So these two lines and this red line, okay, and the edge, okay, those two symbolize the two right lines on the tape. So I don't even use this left one. So it took me a while to figure it out, and how to get it straight. And I basically used the stencil up against the needle to see where it would land, down at the bottom here, because it has to be straight. You have to have a 90-degree angle down to go all the way down, to the bottom. This is the plastic table on my Janome MC Memory Craft 4900. It's quite old. But I just kind of used a temple, lined it up with the needle, and laid it down and saw where it would land on my ruler. And it was at like 13.3 centimeters and 12 3/8. That was where the center would be. And then when I decided to just forget this idea and draw it on the back of my table, I made sure that, I had this one on really straight, and I had my ruler squared up to the square edge here and everything. And then I just drew this with a Sharpie on the back side here. Let me take this off. And You can only draw one line though, because if you go over it, as you know, with a Sharpie, you'll end up erasing it as you come back. So when I got to this second one, I didn't check it. Like you have to check it, make sure it's full, like on a piece of paper, you know, check well, I didn't check it on the second one. It's there, I can see it, and I was like, I'll just leave it and redo it some other day. Okay, so before we go on to stitch these, I thought I would show you like different ways that you can make sure that your line is straight if you do plan on marking it on your, you know, clear table. I just took a ruler, and you kind of want a ruler that's, you know, this one's 6 inches. You want it to be wide enough so that you could get some straight line, you know, 90-degree measurements here, you know, so that you make sure your ruler's not crooked. But what I did was I just basically did needle down. So I don't know if you can see that. My needle is down. You probably can't see it. And so the needle is down, and then you'll just put your ruler up against it, but you don't want to push on it. And remember, this line here is the center. So basically, we're just marking where is our center, because then once we get that, we can just draw this a 1/4 inch from the center, you know. But you kind of want to go up against it lightly, and then use some straight lines on your actual machine bed to help you make sure that this isn't, you know, tilted. And the other thing, my table, do you see this leg of it right here? I have a elastic on it. So it's just, and then it's hooked onto the corner here of this desk. This is like a antique desk, you know, like a man's desk in the old days. But it's big, so it does the job. But anyways, yeah, it's just, this is just hooked on there. You know, I tied it, and you just lift it up and put this under the foot. And that keeps this table tight. So then I don't have to worry about it like, you know, going off to the left or what have you. It's always sandwiched, you know, it's nice and tight up against the machine. So that's really important for, especially if you're going to use this line. But anyways, yeah, so you'll just want to use something on your machine bed to make sure that you're not pivoted. So if I go lightly up against the needle with this edge, and I can see this part of my needle plate, that seems straight. But I can also use this manila edge, you know, of the machine for this part of the 90 degrees. So, and I could, you know, maybe get, let's see, if I move it down, if I slide this down, I can get this line here, you know, to be flush with this edge, and then this flush there. And I have to admit, I'm really surprised that my machine is still kind of accurate, being how old it is. And so once that's on there, then you kind of know where your center is down here. But the other thing you can do, and this is the part that really helps, you put your needle down, your presser foot down to hold that in place. And you may want to get, you know, a weight just to keep it there. And I actually have 2 weights, so you can get 2 of them, one on each end. And then you can tape something that's colored or something that's white. This is just cardboard. And let's see, can I zoom out? Yeah, because you can see that my center line, you may not see it, it's at 31.3 centimeters. Okay. And then the inches, which is this, is about 12 and 3/8, something like that for my center. But remember, this line isn't even there yet. So if you take a piece of cardboard or you could use another piece of template if you have a piece, but this is harder to see. You could tape this on, but then it's harder to see when you flip it over, to follow the edge, because we're basically following the edge of something. So that's why it's probably easier if you have some sort of cardboard, and you could cut it down as well, and just, you could see how I can slide that and then just tape this on there. But the other thing is, you can also make sure this is straight by getting, say, something small like this and putting it, like for me, I have a little bit of a lip there because my machine is not level, so I have to raise my plastic up. You can put this up against there, Oh, it's on that thing. Okay. Get all my junk out of the way. And then now when you take this up, it just sandwiches. It just sandwiches in between the two rulers. And then you can put a piece of tape, say here on your table, and you'd have to lift this up. So you'd probably have to tape this side first, and then once that side is taped, then lift this and then put a piece of tape here. You could see mine. I mean, I don't know. I thought I was straight. I think I'm good. I think I did it right. So you would put some tape there to hold that on, and then you would just take it off and, take the table off, flip it over, and you have this line to follow once you flip it over. And you can use a ruler, then the same ruler, line it up with the edge here and here. Again, you'll have two edges, and you'll draw your straight line. And remember, you only draw it once, because the Sharpies erase themselves if you go back over it. And then after you drew the center, when you go to draw your 1/4 inch, check it on your cardboard or whatever, your paper or anything that you're using. This, you can also use a folder, a manila folder. Just cut it down, but don't cut the straight side. Oh, this isn't a manila folder. This is some heavy cardstock. But yeah, just make sure you check before you do your second line. Check it on the paper, make sure it's coming out and flowing, and then do your second line. And you're probably, the way I did it, I think what I did was, I think I put a ruler, like, if I can remember correctly, because I wanted to start off of it. I didn't want to start at the bottom. I did kind of want to start here. I guess you could start at the bottom and then go here. And then this isn't as important down here. I think I took a ruler and put it up against this so that I started on the ruler and then came down. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but you know, because you want it to be a clean start. Or did I have a piece of paper? Maybe I had the ruler up against it and then a piece of paper on top of the ruler. Honestly, I can't recall. So, but yeah, I mean, I hope it lasts because I don't feel like doing it again soon. But I mean, it's underneath, so you would think, yeah, it should last, right? So, what I've found with lining up the half square triangles on this is I'll line up this point with this right edge or this right line, and this line is it's gonna represent the center line that we normally would draw. So I'll line up this point with this line, and then the needle's going to stitch on this line. But this is what I'm more interested in. This right line is the same as the edge of this. I just cut off a piece of one of my templates, and I just snapped off a piece and taped it on there. So this edge is the same as this line that's on the right. And then this is my center. This is the needle. And that, of course, is this line on the left. And I don't know if I mentioned it already since I'm the second time I'm doing this, but I'm not using, this is just a homemade tape that I made a while ago. I'm not using, as you can see, I'm only using the center line of a tape and the right line. And this is stretched out from redoing this so many times. That's why I got fed up with it. And plus, I don't want tape on my machine. You know, it's just a pain. So I'm not using this left side line with these techniques. And I may have to draw it on there in the future, but I'm not really a pro with piecing. So my expertise is embroidery digitizing. So I'm, you know, an instructor for Embird. So this isn't my expertise, but I do like to try to make things easier. So, and also just so you know, on my machine, my lines here that are on this needle plate, everyone's are going to be different. This is a Janome Memory Craft 4900. It's 20 years old. This is my center. And then this tiny little line is my 1/4 inch. So on this bobbin case cover, okay, all the imperial, all the inches are below this line, this horizontal line. These are your inch marks. Above this horizontal line are your millimeters. So there's 10 millimeters there and then 5 millimeters. So my 1/4 inch is this teeny tiny little line right here. I hope I didn't point to that one. I meant to point to this one. I mean, that's like nothing. And then when you get up here farther, it's opposite. So on this in relation to this horizontal line, your inches are above it. So you can see them, they're written out. Okay. and your millimeters are below it. So basically your millimeters are in the center and your imperials are on the outside. Your little marks for imperial are on the outside of this little rectangle. So yeah, that's why you need more help, you know, with guiding, because things are pretty teeny tiny. So this little line right here is my 1/2 inch line. It's got a little dot on it. Well, the dot is kind of to the left of the line, but I'll be using that 1/2 inch line on the second step when we do the second line. So I have my squares. They're right side together. They're 2.5 inches. And I'm going to zoom out because I want to make sure that I don't cut off this line. I know when I did check it though, when I put it here, you can still see some of the line right here. So I think I'm good even if I zoom in. So I'll just try to be cognizant of that because it is better when you're zoomed in a little bit. So this blade on my 1/4 inch foot, as you can see, you know, I have the blade. That blade is a 1/4 inch from the needle. So that blade also corresponds with this right line and with this edge and with these 1/4 inch hash marks up here and down here. Okay, the blade. So when I first slide this in, well, before I slide it in, let me put a selvage starter on. When I put the starters on, I like to make sure that the cut side is facing me because I like everything to be clean there because I kind of use it to my advantage. So, and I also have been liking it when there's more coming off the left side because I pivot it in a minute. So I'm just going to come down here. These are kind of wide, but it's okay. And I'm going to do a needle down. And now my needle is in center position, so there's nothing scant about this. It's just at 3.5 mils, and this is a 7 mil machine. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch it until it's almost off of it. So I'll go one more stitch. And now you can see if I go one more stitch, I'll be off this fabric. And that's what I want to do. So I'm going to pump my foot pedal to go one more stitch. And if you can't just pump your foot pedal to do what I just did, then do a needle up, needle down. And if you don't have a needle up, needle down button, use your hand wheel, you know, to get that one more stitch. And if you go 2 stitches, that's fine too. But I want to be off of this fabric because then I could just use my knee lift on my machine and tilt it at like a 45, just so it's not in my way so that this, you know, corner can get up in there. So once that's done, then I'll take this, and these are right sides together. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this or not, but these are really old 2.5 inch squares that I got from my quilt guild, like for free. Somebody was giving them away. I normally don't use these. I normally cut my pieces, but these are okay for me to use. I'm not too scared about using them because the valley is where the 2.5 inches is. It's not the peaks. So that's good. So these will get cut off when I trim. So just kind of put it together as best I could. And then with the presser foot down, I can just take this point, and I know this is what I'm lining it up because remember, this edge of this and this 1/4 inch and this blade on the foot and this right side of the line, okay, all of those things represent that center line that normally we would draw here. So I'm going to line up the point with the blade and the other point with the right side line. So I'll just come here and I'll get them both lined up, okay? And then once they're kind of lined up, I can use my presser foot or my knee lifter and just take it and slide it up, because now I'm sliding it. I know it's in basically the right position, right? Until it bumps up against the needle there, this edge bumps up against the needle. And at that point, I found another landmark to help me know if I'm in the right position or not. So I'm going to let go of the knee lift. There's a circle here, and I'm going to slide it down just a hair. I'm going to pivot it just to make sure my point is still under that. Okay, I'll let go of the knee lift. Make sure this point is there. One thing I saw that was really cool on my machine is that, and I hope you can see, there's a circle here. It's like a hole in my machine right here. And the edge of this edge actually touches this bottom left part of this circle, just like a tangent line that we learned in math class. And I remember learning about it, and it was so confusing. And, you know, when you apply it to something you love, it's like, you know, you really understand it, because this edge is tangent to this circle. And the word tangent means they're touching in just one point on the edge and one point on the circle. That's the whole definition of tangent, a tangent line. So this edge is a tangent line to the circle. So I thought that was really cool. So if I take my knee lift and I'm trying to slide this in the right position, if I'm like down here, this edge isn't touching the circle, so I know, oh, I got to slide it up. If I go up too far, if I pivot it, then it's covering the circle. If I come back and I have it pivoted that way, whatever, it's nowhere near the circle. So that's kind of another checkpoint for me. So we'll just start from the beginning. So you have your piece, and you just take your 2 fingers, and here's your 1/4 inch. There's your blade. You can put your finger up there and kind of pivot it down there, and then lift with your presser foot. If you don't have a presser foot lifter, a knee lifter, just take your presser foot lever and lift it and slide that in. And as you slide it, just watch down here. And then as soon as you hit the needle, kind of pivot it to make sure over here. So I'm looking over here at the point. I'll just pivot it to make sure, okay, that point is going right under. And then this point is right on the line as well. And this is pretty much tangent. Sometimes I notice that sometimes it's a little bit far away. I could probably go up a hair. Now this is in my way because I could see it's not at a 45 anymore. You see this gap here? So if I pivot that, now it won't be in the way. And maybe I could, no, I'm going to buckle the fabric if I go up any farther. So I'm good. I'm pretty much tangent there. My point is there. My point is there. And I'm ready to go. So I'll just keep my eye on this the whole time. And here we go. So now as we get past this red line, I start looking for that little notch, that little 1/4 inch notch. And it's right there. It's halfway between, you know, these other two, because this is 1/8 of an inch and this is 1/8 of an inch. Before I see this 1/4 inch notch, I should look and make sure, and you can see I'm off, I should look and make sure that this little point is halfway between these two 1/8 inch marks, right? So I really need to, on my next stitch, I need to kind of rotate. So I'm going to kind of take my fingers and rotate just a smidget. Okay. Probably did it too much. So there's that notch. And now when I leave that notch, I'm going to be looking for this edge. So probably should keep one finger down here. And if you don't have long nails like me, then use your stiletto or your tweezers. I lost my stiletto. So, but this is just like a stiletto, but my fingernails work better. And if you want to grow long fingernails, start taking MSM, sulfur, biological sulfur, you know, like the hippies who swim in the hot sulfur springs. That'll grow long nails, long hair, all kind of health benefits. I've been on it for 30 years. We used to give it to the horses because it's joint therapy as well, you know. But yeah. And then when I switched to Centrum multivitamins for over 50, for women over 50, my nails got even stronger because this one would always split and I had those lines in them. I still have the lines, but they're not as bad because this thumb is trashed. But yeah, Centrum multivitamins, not the Walmart brand, the Great Value brand. It was like night and day. So between that and the MSM, my nails are back. So anyways, so after this mark, I'll look for this edge. And okay, my point is on that edge. And then after that edge, I'll look for the other 1/4 inch mark right there. And now we're not going to see the two 1/8 inch marks because they're both, you know, all three of them are pointing up, you know. But now I just look for the blade to come to the point and I could see I'm right on. And so I'm going to take this and watch the blade. And that now that I'm done with the blade and the point, I'm going to watch the needle and I'm going to let it go off the fabric by one stitch, just like I did with these things. So I got one and I should be able to go one. Okay, I got to go one more. And then with this, I like to also take my knee lift and pivot this at a 45 just to get it out of my way. And then take the next one. A lot of people don't. A lot of people just leave it there. And then because you know, they just line it up like that. But I like to push it all the way up into the needle, you know, where this edge is against the needle. And I feel like this is in my way. So I guess it's just a matter of preference. So I like to pivot it off to the side. And so again, I'll put this at the blade or the 1/4 inch mark, however you want to think of it. And then this one down here, once they're relatively lined up, I'll take my knee lift and slide it in. And I'll slide it up till it hits the needle. I'll pivot it to make sure the point is just going under. Lower my knee lift. I don't know why I can never remember what that's called. I'm tangent over there and I'm ready to go. And I'm watching down here. I'm kind of keeping my fingernail down here. And see, I have a machine that's not smooth from here to here. It's a nightmare. That's another reason why I want to get a new one. So I have to dial this table to be up higher than the plastic part, because the table has to be as high as this, because this is raised up. And then there's still this gully here. Ugh. Anyways, so I could see my point is right in the middle of those 2 1/8-inch marks. So this time I did better, probably because I put my fingernail down. And I should probably, see, I'm right on the quarter. I should probably use something so that you could see that you could use a stiletto, you know. See, but I'm not right-handed. I'm a lefty. And my right hand always hurts. That's why I'm on the MSM. So, but when I hold things like this, it's not as bad. So that's why sometimes for me, it's easier to just put my fingernail down, because then I don't have to use too many parts of my wrist, you know. And I'm sure everybody has issues like that because, you know, we're sewers. And mine is from an injury, but still, you know, us sewers have issues as well. So, but yeah, so I should use something just so you could see. Probably most people are going to hold it in the right hand, so I will. That's so awkward for me. I'll have to do it this way with it. My dog chewed that a long time ago. So, okay, so here we go. So I got past the 1/4 inch. Now I'm looking for the edge. That is so hard for me because I'm not a righty. Now past here, I'm going to look for the other notch, but I don't even have to worry about the notch up there because the blade is so close. I can just keep my eye on the blade, you know. And so once the blade then gets down to the corner here, I'll start watching the needle and wait for it to leave the fabric. Okay, one more stitch, and then I'll use my knee lift, 45 degrees, and I'll just keep chaining. And I'm just going to do 3 for this lesson. So again, there's my 1/4, there's my blade, my point. I'll put it there, and then here, make sure it's, pivot them. And once I see that they're both correct, I'll take my knee lift and I'll slide it up till it hits the needle, till this side hits the needle. I'll pivot it a little to make sure I know where the point is. I see my tangent line. It's kind of up far. That's because I think my point is sticking out too much. Yeah, see, my point's not tucked under. Okay, so now I'm right on, and here we go. So I'm watching down here. And I'm using my fingernails again. So now I could see I have to pivot again counterclockwise because my point isn't in between these 2 1/8. It's just ever so slightly. I mean, I'm sure I'm fine. There, it's right on. And you don't have to be that OCD. I'm just trying to be perfect for the lesson. And this is on the edge. Okay, and then after the edge, I'm either going to look at the blade or we'll look for this mark here. And I see the blade is coming right down, and now the blade is there. Now I'm going to watch the needle. And I got to come one more, and I think I'm off the fabric. So now we're going to turn it. And to turn it, I've been contemplating on different ways. I've been doing different things as far as turning it. I was like, you know, should I start another one of these? In other words, just pivot it and then put this in and start it so that I can turn it easier and have more room? Or should I just, you know, take it, because now everything's going to get turned, right? So, but I need some leeway, right? Should I just do, you know, say a needle up to release my tension discs and pull some thread out and then feed this one in with this side now on the right, on the far right, and, you know, this point down here? What should I do? Because, you know, I'm not going to have as much room. So honestly, I'm trying to decide myself what I really want to do. So I think for this lesson, I'm going to feed one of these in again. And the other thing is, I've been cutting these at this point because look what happens when you go to do these again. The points are going to overlap each other. And a lot of people are like, well, so what? You know, you're starting your 1/4 inch here. I don't know. That's just, look at, there's no room. So I have been cutting these, but I'm going to see if I like it or not. So, you know, I've just been using one of these things and cutting them all and then starting with another thing. And I may do that. But let's just see. So I'm going to put this in. So now this is turned just horizontal. You know, it's not turned 9 or 45 anymore. It's just horizontal. So I'm going to put one in and stitch down till it's almost off the fabric. Okay, one more. Oh, one more. Okay, and I'll use my knee lift. And so, yeah, see, that's not going to help me. That's not going to help me. So I am going to have to cut these just for my method. It's so much less stress. And I really like using this. I just got it, I don't know, 6 months ago. And I like it. So I'm all ready, you know. And so I'll just turn these so that the blade is, you know, perpendicular to this. And I'll just zoom out here. And when I put these down, as I put them down, I've noticed, you know, that this line is on the left side. So as I cut them, you know, the line is on the left. And then, well, this one got flipped around, but so, and that's kind of consistently there, you know, the line is on the left, and that's fine. But what that tells me is that's exactly the way I stitched it the first time. Like, I can't go and stitch them like that with the line on the left, because that's what I just did, right? Lined up these points. And then this is my center line. It lines up with that. But that's good, because if they're consistently all on the left, I know all I have to do is turn them now to do the ones on the right. And the other thing is too, if you'll notice, like, I think when I started this, I cut the last one that I did. And so I went the last one and then put it down. Well, this way. The last one, put it down. The second last one, put it down. So now this top one is my first one again, that I did. And I'll turn it around. So I should have mentioned that, but there's so much to remember, So anyways, so I'll just start with this one. Now this time it's really easy. If I line up with, the red marks, the point, and the point down here, I think you can see them both. But this line is a 1/4 inch from the center line, right? It's a 1/4 inch from that center line that we normally draw. And so the next one we stitch is going to be a 1/4 inch this way, right? So you've got a 1/4 and a 1/4. So these two lines, this is where the needle is stitching. Okay. I slide it up, lift up my foot. Okay. These two lines, they're going to be a 1/2 inch apart, a 1/4 and a 1/4. So that's why this 1/2 inch line up here is so helpful for me. Let me zoom in. Because I just make sure this line is lined up there. So I'll lift up. I know my points were lined up because I started with them lined up. And then as I lift and slide, I'm sliding till I hit the needle, but I'm also looking at this line and this line being in the same vertical plane. My point, I can pivot out, then put it back to make sure that's correct. I'm pushed up against the needle, but I'm not buckling it, and I'm ready to go. So this is really helpful with this 1/2 inch line, and my edge is still tangent to my little circle. And not everybody's going to have that, but you'll probably find things on your machine. Everybody will have something different. So I'm going to put my fingernail down here and just go for it. Yeah, I thought I could get away with not cutting them. I was going to try it, but okay, I'm not paying attention. I just like the low stress and the enjoyment of it and all my little, OCD things that I'm lining up. For me, that's just kind of fun. I'm weird. But there's that 1/4 inch line. And again, I'll wait for it to stitch off the fabric. I'm going to go one more stitch and I'll lift it and pivot. So it's basically the same as before, except this is another helpful tip to line up with that. So I'll get the point and the point. And again, if you're doing, let me slide it up till it hits the needle. I'm going to pivot it a little. I'm not lined up there. My point, I'm not there. So that tells me that something's going on because I'm not lined up there. Well, I can see my needle, the fabric is buckling against the needle. So pull it down and pull it out to the right and then pivot it a little and then move it back in, and now everything looks right. This point is exactly right. This is lined up and this. So sometimes you wonder, well, the pivoting isn't working. Well, that means you probably have to move it to the right or to the left if you have the opposite issue. But, oops, I'm hitting my knee lift instead of my foot. So here we go. I'm watching down here. Okay, so I think I'm still on, and I can see the blade is coming right to the point. So I'll take my eye off the blade and look at the needle. And I don't know if I mentioned that I'm using So Fine 50 weight. I think I did mention that. And then this one. So yeah, when you're doing the like 8 at a time method or what have you, let me start here. Be consistent. Point and point. Knee lift, slide it up. Keep sliding till it hits the needle up there. And then, but I can see my line is too far to the right of this line. So something's wrong. Let me pivot it and see where my point is up there. Yeah, I think my point was in too far. Well, no, it wasn't in far enough. And this one's off now. So that means now that I have to probably same thing, bring it to the right and then pivot and maybe bring to the left a little. Okay, there's my point. This line is still off. I'm off here. So that then tells me that because my tangent line is touching this circle, I probably have to bring it down, bring it to the right, and then pivot. Let's see. My points are on. My fabric looks good. My tangent line is a little high. Let me bring it down. Okay, that took a little bit of finagling. This might be too wide, too much to the right. I don't know because it's not quite on my 1/2 inch line, but that's okay because it's perfect enough because, you know, it'll give us enough for trimming and that. So I think I'm good, kind of. I don't know, that concerns me. We're going to go for it. Okay, I'm right in the middle. Now I look at the edge here. Now I see the blade is coming right to the point. Whoops, I got to pivot a little bit. Now I'm going to watch the needle. One more to come off the fabric, and I'll take this and I'll feed it in. Leave a little gap there. It's okay to let it stitch on nothingness, you know, for that gap. And then I'll use my knee lift, pivot that around. See this little gap here, and that's okay that it's stitched that on, not on fabric. That's fine. And then we'll take this, and now remember, this is the last one we sewed. And if you want, you can also put it on with the one you just sewed always being on the left side. Because if you want to be consistent, you know, with things you do, maybe the one you just sewed is always going to be on the left, you know. So there's the one I just sewed. That'll always be on the left. Here's the one I just sewed, and that'll always be on the left. That might help you better when you're, you know, putting this together. These are all the same, so it doesn't matter too much. And to cut these, I've been using my block to cut them, just because it's just so easy to put this line here, the one with the point, that wall there, you line it right up with the edge, the straight edge. and then you'll see this will just coincide. Just want to make sure you got a 1/2 inch because, you know, as you slide this up, now on the block lock, not a 1/2 inch, a 1/4 inch. The 1/4 inch is, you know, it's not real easy to see. It's the bigger mark, you know, this 1/4 inch. So it's a 1/4 inch of, say, the two, but it's also a 1/4 inch in width from here to here. But it is kind of hard to see at first, and just make sure this point and that point are, you know, meeting the ruler. And it looks like I can slide down here. Or maybe I'm not locked in. Okay, there, I wasn't locked in. So, and again, there's so much forgiveness with this. So there you've got your 2/4 inch seam allowances. My points on these, you know, this fabric, this Waverly. The Waverly fabric is very Waverly. I mean, you got to starch the heck out of it. I should say it's very wavy. Okay. And so then we'll just go and press these open. Now, sometimes it's easier, I found, not to like set the seam and then do it. Sometimes I found that setting the seam, sometimes with these these tiny little pieces, sometimes that makes it harder to get them open. So I've been just doing them with my fingernail first. And just right here at the cutting table. Wrong way. And it just seems like it's been easier. So once I get the middle with my fingernail, I can put it down and then just go that way and that way. And honestly, this is just my stupid little way, and I keep changing it up every time anyways. So I think I've made this video like 3 times already. Just because there's so many different ways to do this, and sometimes you like one way and sometimes another. I don't know. And this could possibly be stretching them the way I'm doing it, so this could be totally wrong. But it just seems easier to do this at the cutting table than trying to wrestle with it at the ironing board, which is like softer, you know? But again, I could be wrong. So I get the center and then put it down and then one way and the other. Or both at the same time. And there you go. And so we'll go ahead and press these. So I'm going to just maybe press 2 at a time here. And I'll get my clapper. And my iron has no steam because it's the Rowenta, you know, that broke like all of them have. Not all, but and now I like it without steam. I really do. So I'm going to turn these over. And they're pretty much done. And I'm going to trim them because, you know, they're not exactly 2 inches. So I'll put the clapper on these. They were closer. I've been pressing and then letting go. I know a lot of people say you don't need to press because you want the heat to go up into the wood, but I found that pressing down with the clapper for a few seconds just flattens it better, probably. And then you can let it go and let the heat, come up. But I don't know about that for sure either. Okay. And then while these 3 are here under the clapper, we'll go and trim these 3. So trimming them, since they're pressed open, there's nothing for this to hook onto. So for trimming, you have to use just a ruler with a 45. So this Creative Grits one works great because of the underneath. And I'm a lefty, so I just put it so it's like straight in front of me, with this on a horizontal line. And then obviously you just line this up. And since I'm going 2 inches, I'm going to use the whites because those are full sizes, not halvesies. And I'm going to just line up the diagonal first and then slide it up and down that diagonal until I get a little bit of excess beyond the 2 on, all sides. So over here I don't have enough. So I have to slide it down a little bit just to get enough on the gray. Okay, now I have a little bit there. I have a little there, everywhere. And these points will come off, which is great. So, and I usually put my finger right at the corner, this one. These fingers then are tucked under, and this one's here. This is a rotating mat, and now I have to put my finger over there, even though that can be very dangerous because, you could cut your finger. You always want to keep the blade level with your finger or just slightly in front of it. But, so I don't know. I try to be careful. It's hard. So I notice I only rotated it 1 turn. You have to go 1, 2. And you could tell you didn't do it because you got a dog ear here and here. So I'll line it up again on the diagonal. This time I'm looking at 2 and 2. I want to be exactly on the 2. And I'm good. So I go back and then forward, but then on this one, as I slide, I go back, lift up, and then go forward because I don't want to chip my corner. And then I'll just brush these away. And I'll put this one up here. And there you go. So that one's done. And so we'll just keep doing it. So for me, since I'm a lefty, the diagonal is pointing towards the left. So maybe if you're a righty, it'll point towards the right. So I have to slide it up because I didn't have anything here to cut off. Slide it up more. Okay, I'm good. I have some there, everywhere. So I go back and just slide up. Now I put my thumb here to hold it so it doesn't move, and then I can readjust my hands. back, pick up, and then forward. Take it, you could pick it up by the dog ears and then put those dog ears in that same top left, or if you're a righty, top right corner, I assume. I'm just thinking that must be that way. So now we're lining up the 2 and the 2. And we'll go back, slide forward, hold, pivot, back, pick up, slide forward. And that one's done. And again here, sliding up and down the diagonal. That looks good. Hold my finger, slide back, pick up, forward. And notice I'm going real slow because I don't want to cut this finger off. Sometimes I do try to not put my finger there, and then it always moves on me. So I'm going to go right on the 2 and 2. Like if I try back, forward, okay, if I just go for it from here, there's not enough holding it right here. And you're like, well, why don't you put your fingers there? Well, I can't. My nails are too long. I have to pivot everything. And I could maybe put my finger closer here, but then again, nothing is holding the ruler there. So I found that I do have to put it there. That's why I'm so darn careful to go slow. So there you go. If they were pressed open, I would trim them with just a regular square ruler, just any ruler with a diagonal. But it's wobbly with this ruler because I press to one side. So this is for when you press open, right? So if I press to one side, the block lock is so nice because it locks in. So since I have to cut on the top, that would mean that when the high side is up here in this corner, my block lock has to be in the other corner, is what I found. Because that you want this point, this ledge here, not this one. So you just lock it in and then slide it up and down. It's so much easier to slide. So I've got enough on all 4 sides to cut. So I'll do this one first. And I usually keep this finger in the corner and these tucked in for the first side. And I'll go back and then forward without lifting. And then for this side, I slide around. I just have to. But I still come in like, ½ inch. I go back, but now I lift up and go in the same spot and go forward because I don't want to chip my corner. That's why I lift up on this side. And then I don't use my rotating mat for this because that's usually when you have a ruler that's the same size as what you're cutting, and this one isn't. So I just turn it. So I basically grab this and put it to the opposite corner. And but before I do that, I usually brush it away. And now the high side is down here, so the block lock has to be in the opposite corner. And I'll lock it in, and now I go right on the 2-inch mark for the outside. So I just make sure I'm locked in on the diagonal, and I'm at the 2-inch. This is off a little. but my finger's there. So I'm not cutting well today. I don't know. I'm going to change my blade. Yeah, that's crazy. Usually when I slide it, I put my thumb there and then slide my hand so nothing moves. And back, lift, and then forward. And then lift that up, push that aside, and there you go. And so, again, the high side is here, so the block lock has to be at the bottom. So I'll make sure, I'll slide it up and down, make sure I have enough to trim everywhere. Slide and slide. Spin my fingers. Slide, lift, and slide. I'm not sliding, I'm cutting, duh. And then take this corner, lift up, fan that off, turn it around. Up, the high side is down here, the block lock is up here. And now I'm right on the 2-inch as I slide up and down. It's my blade. It's time for a new one, Lisa. Back, lift, and forward. Okay.